Hi everyone, welcome to episode number 23, which we will have our first guest, Andrew Caleca, and he will be talking about his experience with UFOs and other interesting things. Hello Andrew, welcome to the show.
Hi Adrian, thanks for having me on. I appreciate this opportunity.
No problem. Could you begin by, letting the viewers know a little bit about you and how you got into UFOs and metaphysical things?
Well, it started when I was very young. I've always had an interest in things on TV about shows like In Search Of and Ripley's Believe It or Not, and then the X-Files, and anything documentaries on UFOs always piqued my interest, and that's how I started studying, reading up more about it and getting more into conspiracy theories and just mysteries that were unexplained.
Mm-hmm.
So
Tell us about your sighting.
well, I had a sighting that this was more recently than not, where I was on Queens on Francis Lewis Boulevard over here in Queens, and I was coming home and it was like 11 o'clock at night, and I saw all these orbs, like these red, orangish balls in the sky. Now I live in Queens. I live near JFK Airport and LaGuardia Airport, so I see planes and helicopters all the time. And this wasn't like anything I've ever seen before.
Mm-hmm.
So I pulled over, I got on my phone, and I tried to shoot a video, but didn't quite come out as well as I had hoped. But I was watching these orbs, and they were moving like in a cluster. They weren't like in any kind of formation.
Mm-hmm.
And they were just kind of slowly moving from south to north, like together. Then they went beyond the tree line, and then I kept watching it, and then they slowly started to come back from north to south, like one at a time, like following in line, one right after another.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can't say for sure what they were. I didn't hear any noise. I didn't hear any helicopter noises. I didn't hear any airplane noises.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just, a very odd experience to have.
And how high, do you think it would be? It's like...
Probably 500,000 feet or so, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's good. And is that your only sighting that you've ever had?
That was the only physical sighting that I've had, yes.
Okay. What do you think of aliens in general?
Well, I think there are aliens out there. I mean, a lot of people would say that, they're busy with their lives and they don't have any interest in UFOs or aliens or conspiracy theories and whatnot. And they, but there are, if you study our culture, there is evidence of UFOs in our past, and currently also there is evidence, and starting with more recently with the Roswell crash, that the government's working with the aliens, and there's various races that are here from what I've read. The gray aliens are the ones that the government's more working with to help each other. The gray aliens came here looking for some sort of rescue for themselves. Their race isn't doing so well, and they need to take some of our DNA and mix it with theirs and try to create like hybrids to sustain their civilization.
Do you think they're more malevolent towards us? Do you think that? Or?
I think it's not so much malevolence as they don't care, basically, that they're just in it for their needs.
Mm-hmm.
They don't care how it affects us, so as long as they
mm-hmm.
can sustain themselves.
So, you feel maybe it's not anything to hurt us, but more of selfish needs, or
right.
They don't have what we have, a sort of feelings or compassion.
Right. Yeah.
They lack those things.
Yes.
I kind of feel that way with maybe the Greys, because certain people who have been abducted, they've talked about the examinations and the procedures that were done on them,
mm-hmm.
and how it was painful, and they didn't really seem to take that into account,
right.
of how the victims felt.
Yeah.
So, could be. What do you feel towards their objective?
Well, I remember Don, who sent me that autopsy thing with the pictures, and he saw the the doctor's reports and things like that,
Mm-hmm.
and he said they were like when you create something, he said they were created, so they're just cold. They just do a job, and that's it. They they don't have the feeling. They just go ahead and do it, whether you're fearful or whatever it is. That's the way they work.
So the grays. I mean, some people
I
said
don't-
they're kind of like robotic.
Yeah.
Like they're not. Some of them might not even be real.
Mm.
It's interesting.
Well, we're creating robots too now. You know, they can
Yeah.
do all these kinds of things. Just happen to they don't have the skin thing over to make them look human. You know they're robots. You know, but yeah. Well,
I know we were talking, and you mentioned about the Oak Tree Island and the conspiracies around that. What's your take on that?
well,
Enlighten us with that.
It's Oak Island. This is one of the things I saw first on in a Search Of episode way back when in the day. It just intrigued me as a fascinating topic. It doesn't necessarily have to do with aliens, but it's just an interesting mystery. Because off the coast of Nova Scotia, in case people don't know, there's a tiny island called Oak Island, and as early as the 1720s, people had been reporting seeing strange lights on the island, and nobody would want to go there. It was like a a taboo to go to the island. Finally, around 1795, a couple of farm kids, decided to investigate and see what was going on this island. So they went there, and they found a depression in the ground, and right above it was a tree limb that looked like it had a rope on it, like somebody was using it as like a pulley to lower stuff down into. So they got some shovels and they started digging down into the ground. A few feet down, they found a layer of flagstone, an interesting pattern. So they took up the flagstone and they threw it away, and they kept digging and digging. After about 10 feet down, they hit a layer of logs, oak logs, and so they dug, held together with ship's putty. So they dug that up.
This is who now doing that?
These are the farm kids.
The farm kids. Okay.
Right. So after the first layer, and they dug up that layer of logs, they kept digging down, and at 20 feet they had another layer of logs laid down. So they enlisted the help of some of the other people in the town. They convinced them that there's got to be something down there. I mean,
Interesting,
somebody went
yeah.
through a lot of trouble
Someone
to
was there
bury
before,
something.
yeah.
Somebody went through a lot of trouble to bury something down here.
Mm.
So they got more people down there, and they kept digging and digging. Every 10 feet, they would hit like a layer of these logs all laid out.
Mm-hmm.
After about 90 feet or so, they hit what they thought was something, and it was getting dark. So they decided to halt things for the day, and they came back the next morning
Mm-hmm.
to find to keep digging, and the guy was getting lowered into the pit, and they discovered that the pit was flooded. It was filled with water, and they couldn't figure out why it was flooded with water.
Mm-hmm.
So they tried to pump out the water, but it just kept refilling. And what they discovered was that there was a series of flooding channels going from the ocean into the money pit. Like after you hit a certain point, there was like a cutoff where it would trigger this water to come in and flood the tunnel. So they kept, every time they tried to pump it out, they wouldn't be able to. They might as well be trying to pump out the ocean because it's impossible.
Mm-hmm.
And they put red dye into the water to see where it would, if they could see where the water was coming from, and it came out on many different sides of the island. It wasn't just one channel. It was like all over the place. And so they kept digging. I think nowadays they're down to like 200 something feet.
I've heard Donald Trump has invested money into them trying to dig and find,
It could very well be. I know FDR was also involved. Before he became president, he was involved in one of the excavations. There was, various mining companies that have tried to dig it up and find it. There's actually a TV show now on, I think it's on the History Channel, Mystery of Oak Island, and these two brothers are digging and trying to find, what's down there. But what I don't like about that show is they're not digging in the actual original money pit. They're like digging in different spots along the island. And also from what I heard, that people have dug test drills like all around the original money pit, so that they're not exactly sure where the original hole is, because it's filled with holes all over. So it's hard to pinpoint exactly where it is. But it's just one of those intriguing mysteries, because who would go through the trouble? And this is back. I mean, they found this in the 1700s, so it would have been made like hundreds of years, or who knows how long before that.
I've heard rumors that like the Nordics, the Vikings,
Mm-hmm.
that they had come to North America. They were the first Europeans to come,
Right.
and they supposedly had the Holy Grail. Like, what do you guys think about that? I mean, do you think that could be there on Oak Island?
I don't know.
I mean, I've heard the rumors about that.
I think, well, one of the things I missed on was the channels that made the tunnel flood. They were layered with coconut husks, coconut fibers, which are only found like in Central and South America. So whoever this was would have had to go down to Central America, get coconut husks and fibers and bring it up there. I mean, it's very elaborate how they did it. So I don't know if the Vikings went down as far as South America and came back up and dig this tunnel. But I mean, my own personal feeling, it could be the Holy Grail, it could be the Ark of the Covenant down there, or maybe something somebody didn't want anybody to find.
Do you think it's off-earthly design, or do you think it's out of something that's not from this world?
The evidence I've seen, it's very conventional, so it could be man-made. I mean, perhaps they might have some intervention, but it's just so elaborate. Like, because some people think it was pirates buried treasure down there, but I don't think pirates would go through that much trouble to bury a couple of the blooms of gold.
What do you think?
I don't know. I don't know much about that. I mean, I've heard about what he was talking about. I don't know. I wouldn't even venture because I don't know. I don't know about that.
Do you think they'll ever find what's down there?
I hope so. I think it would definitely be a game changer if they do find, like, if it is the Ark of the Covenant or something. That's,
who knows, they may have discovered it already and just don't want to release it.
Well,
like they normally do. When something is too shocking, they don't want to
they
release
hide it
it.
in plain sight.
Yeah,
There's also reports
keep it back. Don't let the people know yet.
There's reports the Ark of the Covenant's in some church in Ethiopia, and they're keeping it locked in there. But again, they don't want anybody to find it because that would prove a lot of things.
Yeah,
they want to keep everybody guessing. It goes back to the control, and they don't want people to be. The people in charge, they want to stay in charge. And if they find the Ark of the Covenant or the Holy Grail or some other ancient evidence of stuff that it would kind of counteract with their the control that they're trying to keep.
Yeah, and perhaps, I can believe that. Perhaps maybe whatever they're looking for could have been destroyed for them digging everything up. Maybe they're caved in or, destroyed.
It's just like a lot of things in the pyramid they probably discovered already, and they won't release it. It'll change everything, because people start thinking differently than what they're thinking today, and they don't want that. They say the history of going way, way back, stored somewhere in the pyramids. And who knows who put it there? Aliens or
so it's a chamber of like a library, like an ancient library buried under there, and everybody said, "Oh no, there's nothing under there. There's nothing under there." But who's to know? I mean, 5 people went down there, looked, and found all this stuff, and they're gonna keep it, especially if it's something very interesting. They're gonna keep it for themselves.
Yeah. Andrew, do you believe that the pyramids or the Mayan pyramids? Do you believe that they could have been built by extraterrestrial civilization, or do you think we did?
I think they would have had to help, because if you think about, just the basic math on there, there's millions of stones that are perfectly cut and placed in the pyramids, and I think the math on that is something, to build it within the 20-year time span that they claim that it's been built, they would have had to cut and place a stone every minute and a half. And I just don't see how that could be possible back in, there could be some ancient technologies that we've lost, sound vibration technology. There could have been, another theory I personally have is that there was other gravitational forces that they, in the ancient days, that may not exist now. Maybe there was a shifting in the poles, like how the poles are shifting right now from north to south, from north to south, south to north. That created a window where they could, perhaps levitate these stones, or they tapped into that energy in some way to be able to move these stones in a more efficient way.
We did an episode on that.
Yeah.
You guys can check that out, look at our channel guide and see the episode that we've done on the pyramids.
Yeah, they say there are civilizations that existed that we're not aware of just yet. They go way, way back and highly advanced, and something happened on the earth and caused it to be destroyed, and there's only little history of it, Well,
like what's going on with Japan right now. Japan, they had the nuclear reactor, and when with the earthquake hit and the tidal wave, and it created a meltdown situation. And now I think recently they just had a typhoon hit there. So it's an island,
Mm-hmm.
So, and they had, well, this, they have a lot of technology. So what if one day, between the earthquakes and more tidal waves and typhoons, if Japan just gets wiped off the
Sure,
map,
sure.
and then in 500, 1,000 years, people are like, oh yeah, there was this ancient civilization
Yeah.
called the Japanese, and they used to live, and people, oh, I don't believe in the Japanese, that's a lot of hogwash,
Oh, yeah.
So who knows, like with Atlantis, who knows, it could have existed thousands of years ago, and it's been lost to myth and legend, and there's other history that people want to follow that, they don't want it to be.
Yeah, like a lot of the islands, like High Brazil, that's off near England. That was like an island. There was like a lot of islands.
They're reliable sources from what you call the ancient mystery schools, and from people who are very important, like Solon and Plato and others who talked about Atlantis. And I think even Edgar Cayce, he even mentioned it.
Yeah.
And they say they used to have a pyramid. They used to have a crystal on the top. And this crystal used to, because of the way it was constructed, used to harness energy. And I think they're finding out about these things now.
Right. Yeah. Well, Tesla, that reminds me of Tesla and his Tesla coils, and he wanted to make free energy for everybody, and would tap into the energies of the earth and be able to distribute energy wirelessly
free.
to everybody.
Yeah.
Sure.
So it goes way back. They say the earth is very, very old, much older than what you call geologists have come to believe. Much, much older.
So let me get your take on this, Andrew. Now, I mean, we say extraterrestrials have been coming here for thousands, if not millions of years. And throughout history, civilizations have talked about them coming and visiting. Some people are skeptical of UFOs and extraterrestrials. Today would say, oh, why don't they come back? Why don't they land and help us with the problems we're going through?
They are back.
Yeah.
They never left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, as far as them helping us with our current problems, what's your take on that?
Well, I think, like I just said, they've never left. I think they've been here since mankind has been here, before mankind has been here, since Earth was created. I mean, they're, when you talk about aliens, and let me backtrack a little bit. People have a hard time believing that aliens are visiting the Earth in the first place because of the great distances between the galaxies and even the different solar systems. And when you think about the technology that we have developed just in the past couple of 100 years. I mean, 200 years ago, there were still, we didn't have a lot. We didn't discovered electricity, and Edison was inventing all these things that ran on electricity, and we went from,
The Industrial Revolution.
yeah, we went from having, not even knowing what electricity is, to now we have cell phones. We can call anybody, like call somebody in China right now in 2 seconds, and have them on the phone. So think how impossible that would have seemed 200 years ago to somebody. And now you're talking about a race of, aliens who have, they may have developed, a million years ago, 2 million years ago. And they have 1 million years of technological advances over us. They would have found a way to transverse the universe, using wormholes or bending space and time. Like Einstein's theories believe that time and space is like a fabric, and it can be bent and pulled and.
Yeah, so you go into it, you bring it to you.
Exactly. Yeah, they would pull. If you want to get from point A to point B, you wouldn't travel like in a straight line. You would just kind of bend space and time and pull the two of them together, and you would just take one little step from one to the other, and then release the energy, and you'd be on the other side of the galaxy of the universe. And if you have 1 million years, I mean, I think that sounds impossible now, but if you have 1 million years of technology advancement, it could certainly be possible.
Do you believe that they have, like our governments have used, reversed engineering on technology that are
From what I've heard, yes, from the crash at Roswell and actually there have been other crashes in Russia even too that a lot of people haven't heard about, and they reverse engineer some of these spacecraft, and even with the cooperation with the aliens to kind of mesh our two technologies to help us advance, but technologically, but it can't happen too fast. I mean, you can't have too much of a quantum leap from having a radio to having interstellar travel. There has to be like somewhat of an evolution of technology, if not anything else, just for the civilization itself, for the people. to be able to handle it, and also for the radiation factors too. I mean, that's what they think is why the Greys are in such danger as it is now, because they're using all this technology and radiation, and it's destroying themselves. And like with Fukushima and 3 Mile Island, and all these nuclear leaks and everything, it's very harmful to us, and they've exposed themselves to radiation over all these years with using this advanced technology, and we have to be careful how you use it, or it could destroy us.
Sure. That's
So-
probably done others.
Yeah.
Past times, might have done.
So what do you think makes the extraterrestrials help, like say our governments, to reverse engineer? What do you think is in it for the aliens? Why would they want to?
Well, it might be like a quid pro quo. It might be they help, we help each other. They help, we're helping them with our DNA and whatever their needs are. And they help us by giving us technologies that the government can make money on and advance our civilization. Like after the Roswell crash, all of a sudden you had all these advancements in radio technology, radar technology, fiber optics came along back then. And
Corso.
Yeah, Colonel Corso.
so it's, they're slowly releasing, one step at a time. The first, in kind of evolution of technology to help to make it seem, at least to the masses, that we're just evolving on our own, whereas the truth is that we're being spoon-fed some of this technology and slowly introduced to the technology that they have.
So I mean, when they're working on this technology, there are places where people have claimed that they work out of collectively, like a joint operation, say like a Area 51, a Dulce, New Mexico, or Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, that, the basement levels. We hear these type of things, and some say even in the airport they have in Denver.
Yeah, in the Denver airport, they supposedly have lots of tunnels and stuff.
Tunnels and-
Well, what's funny about the Denver airport, since you bring that up, they have, first of all, Denver airport is miles from Denver. It's like not even near Denver at all. Like why they would build it like miles away in the middle of nowhere. If you go look, go Google where the Denver airport is, it's like miles outside of town. And it's built on a high plateau, and supposedly there's all these tunnels underneath it, and that lead to, possibly NORAD or some other places. And, they're, for whatever, reasons they have that we'll never know, probably.
Now we've talked about the earthly bases. What is your take on bases, say on the moon, that have been talked about?
I think it's very possible, especially on the dark side of the moon, which you can't, obviously we can't see from the Earth. You have to be in a spaceship and go around to the other side to see what's going on. There could very well be bases from our own bases, or aliens using them as a launching point to come in to the Earth. And some people believe there's aliens living underground, the reptilians, and other races might be living on the Earth under the water, under the Earth. Yeah, USOs and everything. So it's more than it's pretty likely that there are some bases there. I also think there's stuff on Mars that the aliens don't want us to find either, because there have been so many, even though we have the Mars rover on there now, and there's other probes that have been sent there and circling Mars and examining it, there have been more than a few probes that they've launched to Mars that just disappeared.
Yeah.
So I think either they got too close to an alien spaceship, or the aliens didn't want us to find something. There was something they didn't want us to find, and they just basically, shot it down.
Or maybe we found something and just said, to the public that, they're missing.
Yeah.
Just to kind of end that.
Right. Well, like they say, they airbrush a lot of the pictures they do take.
Yeah.
These are, what do you call these, people who
Cover-up?
turn,
Photoshop.
people who turn against the people they're working for. What do they call
Traitors.
it? Huh?
Traitors.
Well, they got another word for them. But there were people who used to work for these people, and they say they would airbrush a lot of the things that they didn't want you to see.
Oh,
they
the
would,
picture, like the
they would take the pictures and
the film.
the film and take it out, so you wouldn't see it when they showed it.
Who do you think are the most credible people to talk about extraterrestrials on the moon, or possibly on Mars?
I'm not really sure I can answer that.
Oh, okay.
The astronauts to me.
Mm-hmm.
Listen to the
Okay.
astronauts.
Yeah, people have actually been there.
Yeah,
Sure,
been
yeah,
there.
they can-
Like Armstrong said, we were warned off the moon. You don't come back until you're ready. You're not spiritually ready yet. You know, you're going to put things there, you're going to explode bombs to see what's underneath the ground and things like that. You don't come up here and do that, you know. Get out. Go back home.
And
Come back later.
Some have said that moon landing was fake.
Oh.
You
Well,
know,
I
I've
don't
heard
think it was
theories
fake. I
about
think
that.
I say this. The first one may have been a fake. That was in order to say, well, we beat everybody. We was the first one. But they're there. They've been there. They've been there now, I'm sure. But that first one, it may have been a fake just to say we were the first.
Because it had the flag like it was wind.
Yeah.
Like there's no wind on the moon.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
boy. So I mean, Andrew, I mean, you've been into like other subjects, UFOs, and I know you mentioned to me about like the GMOs and.
yes, GMOs are a big problem. If you go Google Monsanto, if you take their point of view, Monsanto, they've developed genetically engineered GMOs, genetically modified organisms, and their goal was to be able to feed the world. They want to have enough food to be able to feed the growing populations, but they're going about it in a way that's dangerous to everybody, because what they've done is they've taken, like wheat, for example. All of a sudden, if you go down the aisle in the supermarkets, all you see is gluten-free this, and everybody's got gluten allergies, and they're having upset stomachs from all this food. And it's not that everybody's all of a sudden developing food allergies. They've physically changed the food, the genetic makeup of corn, wheat. I was recently reading...
Apples, I've heard apples.
Apples. I was recently watching something about in India, cotton. They have these big cotton fields, and the farmers have to buy the seed from Monsanto. And the Monsanto cotton, when the workers go to pick the cotton, they're getting all these skin rashes and irritations on their hands. And when they go pick the normal cotton, they don't get all the rashes. And also the animals, like what they would let them do after the cotton's already been picked, they let the goats or whatever animals there eat the rest of the plant to get rid of it and make room for the next planting season. And the animals are getting sick. They're losing their hair. They're dying. Whereas the ones and they actually did a test, and they had certain goats they would let them go eat the genetically modified cotton plants, and they would be sick and lose their skin and be unhealthy. And they had another control group that would go and eat the regular, natural cotton plants, and they would be perfectly fine. And especially with the wheat and the grains that they're genetically modifying, it's causing a lot of health problems in everybody. That's why people have all of a sudden, like I was saying, everything's gluten-free this and gluten-free that, because it's not it's not the person that's having the reactions. They've changed the food, and one of the major things they've incorporated into the food is a natural insecticide. So basically, we're eating insecticide in the food, and
And we need to have insects. We need to have these things. It's part of nature.
Right. And another thing, like with Monsanto and their genetically modified organisms, they don't, like natural plants, they will release they'll create seeds so you can plant, for the next season. With the GMO plants, they don't produce seeds, so you have to buy more seeds from Monsanto. So it's a billion-dollar industry, and it's gone so far as to President Obama signed a law protecting Monsanto from any future lawsuits related to health issues that people might claim came from their genetically modified foods. And even further, the plants that have the GMOs in them are, say, you have a wheat field, one area that has the genetically modified food, and then hundreds of miles away is another farm that's not using the GMO food. The farmers who are, doing the organic plants, they're finding that it's being contaminated with the GMO food, either from the air, it's blowing the
chemtrails.
Well, not chemtrails, but it's blowing whatever's in the GMOs is being transferred through the air to
Oh, yeah.
to that, so that and they have to be tested. Like the organic food has to be certified organic to put the certified organic label on it. And when they do the testing on the supposedly organic food, they're finding traces of the GMOs in it, and they say, oh, you can't certify this as organic because it has a GMO in it. And Monsanto, in their infinite wisdom, decided, hey, that's copyright infringement. They're taking our GMO patent and they're using it on their plants, so we're going to sue them. So Monsanto was suing farmers who aren't using their seeds, and accusing them of copyright infringement for using their technology. So it's just they're creating a monster organization, and people have to start standing up and buying organic food and not saying that they want it. They want non-GMO foods.
You see, the issue with that is that people, like say me, for example, I don't really make a lot of money, just work, like little odd jobs. But to go and buy organic food, say you want to buy a meal or something to last you through the week, it's so expensive.
Right.
That when you look at your cost of living, your bills, and what you have to pay for food, it's hard, and a lot of people just can't do it. And these GMOs and the fast food companies that are benefiting hand in hand with it, they make this stuff cheap.
Yes.
And more available. That's where more people go to get this. So what do you think is the long-term health effects of these GMOs?
Well, people are developing celiac disease, which is an allergic reaction to the GMOs. I know somebody personally they got to be very careful what they eat, and anytime they have just cereal, like they're eating the Special K cereal, and they're having, all of a sudden they have tremendous stomach pain and problems, and and they went to the doctor, and doctors can't find anything wrong. They say, oh, you're perfectly healthy, there's nothing wrong, whereas they tested for all kinds of known causes and of the ailments, and they're not finding anything. But it can be directly attributed to they eat this food and they have a reaction to it, and it could be in grains and breads and corn plants that they eat, and the body just has a bad reaction to it. And it's something has to be done, because they can't keep having people get sick from the food. I mean,
I used to love cream of wheat. That's the farina. What do you call it? Comes from I forget what company it is. Cream of wheat. Yeah, but I used to love it. About a year ago, I think I ate some and it didn't taste like it used to taste.
Yeah.
Didn't like it anymore. I said, something's wrong with this. And I used to love it. Cream of wheat? Oh my goodness. Now I just eat oatmeal. I haven't seen any differences yet.
I mean, who do you think is benefiting from this? Who's not benefiting from it? Do we get more sick from this? And are the pharmaceutical companies going to